What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video series here today. I know it's been a while since my last video. I think it was about 2 weeks ago since I released the blue-white Jace video and also the Sultai Jace video. So it has been a while since my last video, and let me tell you a little bit why that has been the case. So school has kind of been pretty busy. Exams are starting up. My students have exams, and there's also like projects I'm working on, research I'm doing that is taking up a lot of my time. I'm flying out to Stanford in about a month to work on some projects. So it's really like a lot of work and in a very short amount of time. So it's always really difficult to fit magic into the grand scheme of things. But it's something that I want to keep doing, obviously. So don't take this as any reason for me to stop making videos. I'm going to be doing this, as much as I possibly can, because I'm dedicated to this, I'm devoted to this, and I want you guys to know that. So first of all, I've been working a lot on Jeskai Geist lately, and I've been speaking to GreatNate. A lot of you might know him. He's a pretty big, probably one of the biggest Jeskai YouTubers, if not the biggest. So he has a lot of really good content out there if you're looking to get Jeskai videos. So we've been communicating a lot, we've been sharing lists back and forth, and we've been testing a lot. Like, we've been testing a ton on Magic Online. So I haven't been recording content, but I have been playing a ton. Basically, this is the list that I more or less played with, a few tweaks here and there. There's a tweak I made just for this video today, just to test some new things, try some things out. But essentially, the list you see in front of you is more or less the 75 that I've been testing in about 10 or so modern leagues, maybe a little less, right? And I've gotten about 5 4-1s at this point, and like a bunch of 3-2s, and then like 1 or 2 2-3s. So overall, like, the list has been performing like very, very consistently. And Jeskai Geist has always been a consistent deck, right? But now we have Jace, and Jace is this card advantage engine that we didn't really have before, which is really nice. So Geist can sometimes fall short in a few matchups, so protecting the queen, style strategy of Geist doesn't always get there, but sometimes protecting Jace does get there, and that's what I really like about what Jace the Mind Sculptor does to the deck as a whole. But let's talk about just the deck in general first. So Jeskai Geist is essentially, or Jeskai Tempo, because honestly there's more tempo elements than there are Geist Saint Traps in the deck. But let's talk about essentially Jeskai Geist, Jeskai Tempo. That's what this deck is basically known as being. It's essentially a deck where you want to, kind of 1-for-1 your opponent's creatures with removal. But what's great about your removal is that most of it can just go upstairs, right? And that's great to have that kind of secondary, not necessarily win con, but it's like a dual modal spell. It's like deal 3 damage to target creature or deal 3 damage to target player, right? And that's what Lightning Bolt does here. That's what Lightning Helix does, that's what Electrolyze does, and that's what I really like about Jeskai in general, right? A lot of your spells can just do a lot of different things depending on the matchup. But essentially what we try to do is kind of answer our opponent's turn 1, turn 2 plays in some way with, removal spells or counter spells in the form of Logic Knot. And then, once we get to our 3-drop slot is when we kind of start deviating from other Jeskai lists. So we play Spell Queller, and that's going to be one of the most powerful cards in this list. What Spell Queller does is essentially gives you a main deck answer to so many things in the format. Yeah, it's a creature, yeah, it's susceptible to removal, but essentially, one of the most difficult things that, Jeskai Geist used to have to deal with in the past was knowing when to tap out for a 3-mana sorcery. And then, you could just die after you tap out and your opponent just storms off or cast Ad Nauseam or, whatever. What Spell Queller does is add this angle of attack to the deck where you kind of just can interact with whatever your opponent does during game 1, and a lot of decks won't even have answers to Spell Queller during game 1. So while the more interactive decks, Spell Queller does get a little bit weaker because, they have Fatal Pushes, they have Pass, they have Bolts, whatever. But Spell Queller kind of just, gives the deck exactly what it needs to compete against other decks in the format that are doing really unfair, really fast, and really hard to interact with things, right? The great thing about Spell Queller is it doesn't say counter target spell, it says exile target spell. And what's great about that is there's a lot of Cavern of Souls in the format, whether it's humans or Eldrazi or Merfolk. Spell Queller doesn't care about that at all. Just goes ahead and supersedes that completely. You know, counter a Thought-Knot Seer, counter a Mirror Regery or whatever you want. You know, it does everything, and that's exactly what this deck wants. At the same time, we still want to be able to apply a clock to our opponent, which is what Geist of St. Draft does. It's a hexproof threat, comes down on turn 3, and starts clocking your opponent for 6. And most of the time, all you need to do is get in a hit, sometimes 2, and your burn spells can close out the game, right? And then Snapcaster made snapcasting burn spells and things like that. You have a lot of closing power, a lot of ways to clock, combo, and other uninteractive decks. And we do play one of Vendilion Clique, and let me explain why I like Vendilion Clique right now. I think it lines up really well against both the Jace and the Blood Raid decks of the format. It can be really hard with our deck to maybe answer Planeswalkers, and can be very hard to answer Blood Raid F cleanly. What I like about Vendilion Clique is that it comes down on your, either play or draw, comes down on your opponent's maybe turn 4 draw step. And what that does, it can, get rid of a Bloodbraid Elf or a Jace that might be sitting in your opponent's hand that we otherwise might have a difficult, time dealing with. So that's what I really like about Vendilion Clique, and you'll see that there's 2 in the 75 because it's not great in every matchup, but it's good in a lot of matchups. And so I think Vendilion Clique right now shines a little bit more than the third Geist that normally occupies this slot. And then we still keep our Cryptic and Jace core. So Jace is a new addition to the deck. It's hasn't necessarily been played that much. I haven't seen much content about it, but in my testing, he's been great, but not broken. So the issue is with Jace is that a lot of the decks in the format just don't care about what Jace is doing. Red Black Hollow One, Affinity, Storm, various other combo decks and aggro decks. Ponza, like no one really cares about Tron, Eldrazi Tron even. Like Jace is not that great, but he's good enough, and I think he makes blue strategies just a little bit stronger as a whole. Whether you play 1, 2, or 3 as the correct number, I don't know. I used to have 1 Jace in the main, 1 in the side, and I had a lot of good results with it. Today I'm trying out 2 Jace in the main. Originally I started out with 3, and then I went down to 2, and then I went down to 1 in the main, 1 in the side. But now I'm going back up to 2 because I think the metagame is kind of shaking out. And I think having access to 2 Jace in the main deck is really useful against a lot of decks in the format. However, I think Cryptic Command is still a really powerful card, and I don't think they necessarily replace one another. Sure, it's difficult to have a lot of clunky, 4-drops, but Jace is just so powerful. Cryptic Command also so powerful, and Cryptic Command plays really nicely with our creature strategy, right? Cryptic Command still has the fantastic mode of tap your opponent's creatures, draw a card, or return troublesome permanents, or just counter target spells. It's just so versatile that I think if you want to replace Cryptic and Jace, I think you're doing it wrong. I don't think they're interchangeable in the slightest, and that could just be the fact that Jace doesn't fit in every deck. But in this specific case, like, Cryptic Command is just so important for Jeskai Geist and Jeskai Tempo that it's just, really hard to trim them. So most Jeskai Tempo lists play 3 to 4 Cryptics. So of course I'm going to lean on 3 because yeah, we're playing Jace now and we have to be aware of our curve and don't want to get too many clunky draws. But overall, this is more or less the deck here. One thing about the mana base here, I'm playing 2 Field of Ruins, and I have only 3 Colonnades. So Tron is huge right now, especially online. Metagame is always fluctuating, of course, but I love having those 2 Field of Ruins in the main deck because they answer really troublesome cards like, obviously, Tron pieces, and also Valakut and Manlands. So spending a land instead of, or not even a land, just kind of like being on par in terms of mana, because Field of Ruin replaces itself, and answering your opponent's, manlands like Raging Ravines and Creeping Tar Pits gets really relevant, and it's also a shuffle effect for Jace. So essentially, we have 10 shuffle effects without actually increasing the number of fetch lands we would normally play, which is about 8. So that's what I really like about Field of Ruin in the deck. Yeah, it can be kind of like awkward in some corner cases, where you're trying to cast Cryptic Command on turn 3, and maybe you have like one of your basics in your hand as well, so like you have like, let's say, Steam Vents, Hollowed Fountain, Field of Ruin, basic planes, right? That can get really awkward, but at the same time, I think the fact that we need to be able to Field of Ruin on turn 3 to be able to like beat Tron in game 1, is really, really important. So that's the main deck, more or less. I think I explained most of the card choices. Again, everything here is essentially trying to answer what your opponent does in a cheap, efficient manner, and also apply, disruptive, fast clocks. That's what we're trying to do. Apply both pressure and a clock at the same time, while just leveraging the power of Jeskai. That's the main deck. Let's go ahead and talk about the sideboard. There's a lot of different things going on here, and we can cover most of the things, but basically what I want in this format is a big chunk of dispels and a big chunk of negates. Reason being is that they're actually two very versatile counter spells, and the format's just so wide right now. It's just it's just completely in flux right now because there's all this Jace decks, all these BBE decks, and it's just really hard to figure out what's going on. So what I like about Dispel is just counter target instant spell, and negate counter target non-creature spell. They just go such a long way in shoring up a lot of different matchups, so it's really important to have that kind of counter spell base that is just so versatile, in my opinion. We have this second Vendilion Clique in the 75. So again, I explained how Vendilion Clique is just really nice against a lot of what the format is doing right now. Just great against combo, great against big mana, great against control, great against mid range. Great card all around. I do recommend having 2 in the 75. Disdainful Stroke, again, big mana. Valakut can be some of our more difficult matchups, and I also like to bring it against control sometimes. So Disdainful Stroke, great card. Crumble to Dust is very narrow, but I like having access to one of these type effects in the 75 here, because Tron is just so big online, and again, you'll see me skewing some of my sideboarding to cater to the online meta. Your local meta might be different, going to a big event, you might see different things, but online, based on what I've been playing more or less every day for a while now. And you can almost guarantee running into at least one Tron deck in a modern competitive league. So that's why I have Crumble Dust. Yes, it's very narrow. Yes, it's a little expensive. Yes, it can be a little clunky and sometimes too slow. But it's kind of that one, that silver bullet answer that you need to answer Tron. And that's what I really like. We have Settle the Wreckage here. So it's kind of my only, not even a hard sweeper. It's kind of like a soft sweeper. I really like Settle the Wreckage. It gives you just a lot of game against strategies that normally shut you down. I have brought in Settle the Wreckage and blown out Bogles, Dredge, and those are normally just like unwinnable matchups. So Settle the Wreckage just goes a long way, and you can also just bring it in against most other aggressive decks, where one-sided board sweepers are really important, because you also have this creature base here that you don't want to get rid of with like a Supreme Verdict. And then we have Celestial Purge, a lot of Blood Moon decks, a lot of Liliana decks, a lot of Death Shadow still running around, so Celestial Purge does a really good job in keeping those in check. Relic of Regenesis is a great anti-sideboard card, anti-graveyard card, which doesn't completely neuter our Snapcaster mages. There is the option of like Surgical Extraction in this slot, but I've been kind of underwhelmed with Surgical Extraction lately. I think having this kind of more like wide application, like Relic of Regenesis just eats away at your opponent's graveyard, it just exiles it completely, whereas Surgical, yeah, can hit like a very specific piece, but the fact that Relic cantrips, and then can also just like, you can bring it against Tarmogoyf decks, and then still be kind of like on par in terms of cards, while shrinking your opponent's, creatures. Also, Knight of the Reliquary decks, I think Relic of Regenesis is really good there. Wear Tear, again, a great catch-all spell for the sideboard. I wouldn't really... if you're on Jeskai, I would not, leave home without at least one Wear Tear, in my opinion. I'm a big proponent of Wear Tear. You'll see most of my Jeskai decks have Wear Tear in the sideboard, at least 1 to 2 copies. 2 when like Lantern and Affinity are bigger in the format. 1 when they're not. In terms of grindy cards, we have Keranos here. He's a great grinding tool against Jund and other control strategies, and that's what I really like. And I also bring him in against creature strategies, because sometimes, you play a Spell Queller or Geist, and it's not enough against Affinity or something like that. Keranos kind of just like, bolts their creature every turn, keeps you drawing cards once you stabilize the board, and that's what I really like about Keranos. Obviously, he's a little poor when you're already behind, but Keranos does a pretty decent job. Is a Staticaster, clears the way of Lingering Souls and other X1 creatures. I really like Is a Staticaster in Jeskai. Having access to one in the 75 is really important in my opinion. It's another one of those cards where I don't always have it, but most of the time I do in my sideboard. And then, Elspeth Sun's Champion. So I have kind of 2 grindy engines here. I have Keranos as well as Elspeth. I think Elspeth does a really good job against Eldrazi Tron, which is one of our more difficult matchups. So think of it as like, you know, definitely a great grindy engine against maybe like Jund or other mid-range strategies, but Elspeth is just like our key card for the Eldrazi Tron matchup, and that's what I think she's in here mostly for, because that matchup is going to be close to unwinnable in some cases. Definitely, we have very little ways to interact with some of their cards, like Chalice of the Void, if they get that down early, and then their creatures just go kind of, you know, unchallenged for the rest of the game. So Elspeth does a great job in helping you win those game 2s and 3s. Especially if you can top deck them like I always seem to do. And hopefully we can always do that in this Modern Competitive League. Anyways, I think I covered most of what the deck is doing here. You'll notice that there's a deck list right under my face. I hope it works out and it comes out looking good. Again, a lot of you mentioned comments. Some of you were constructive and some of you were not. I do encourage the more constructive feedback, but I definitely do appreciate you guys commenting. You know, on my last Jace videos, there were quite a few, not only just misplays, but like quality issues and things like that. That's not something I want to be known for. That's not something I want to keep, you know, kind of perpetuating in my content. I want to keep growing as a creator. I want things to look good. I want things to sound good. I want my play to be good. I'm only human, but at the same time, I understand that watching someone play bad Magic or having really weird things on the screen happening, or maybe sound issues, like that's really frustrating as a viewer. As someone who, you know, views a lot of Magic content themselves, you know, on Twitch, on YouTube, I completely understand some of your concerns. So I definitely want to alleviate some of those concerns for you, and let you guys know that I'm working on making this, you know, the content sound better, look better, and I just want to make the experience an overall better experience for all of you guys. So again, thank you for the constructive feedback. For those of you that provided some unconstructive feedback, I will just say that I will not, you know, respond to like mean, hateful comments and things like that. Like, I don't need that in my life. You know, I love making Magic content. I love doing this. It makes me happy. So I'm not really going to let you guys take that away from me. And this is only targeted towards, you know, the people who are writing really mean things, right? And I'm reading it, you know, but I'm not letting it get to me. For those of you that are watching the content, that care, that are providing me with constructive feedback, I appreciate it more than anything in the world. And I appreciate you guys sticking around, commenting, watching, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. You know, we're nearing 1,000 subscribers right now. I started this a little over a year ago, and to think that we would be here one day, just baffled. Like, I can't believe it. I really can't believe it at all. So I'm so happy that you guys are here, that you're watching this video here today, and I hope you guys enjoy the next coming matches here with Jacekai Geist. I do like that name, Jacekai Geist. But yeah, we're going to run it through a Modern Competitive League, and hopefully we do good. Remember, we're going to be testing the deck. I've had a lot of good results in the past, but a lot of variance in Modern, so we'll see what we run into in the wide format that is Modern, and we'll try to play as best as we can, and maybe understand where this deck should be moving in terms of the main 60, the sideboard, the number of Jaces, the 3-drop slot. A lot of important things to consider here. Thank you all so much for watching this deck tech, and stay tuned for the first match of this Modern Competitive League. I will see you all very, very soon. Alright guys, welcome to the first match here with Jeskai Tempo. Yeah, we won the die roll. Let's go ahead and play first. Yeah, our hand has some good things going on here, so I'm going to go ahead and keep. I think we just go ahead and play a Steam Vents tap here. We don't know what our opponent is doing, and there's no need to just play a basic mountain and kind of mess up our curve down the road. But our hand seems to be pretty good in the dark here. Where's his mine? Alright, so we have Field of Ruin, we have Click, two really important pieces to interact with Tron in Game 1. Looks like this is going to be traditional Tron in the form of Chromatic Star. I don't really want my opponent to know about Field of Ruin here, so I'm going to go ahead and play a Mountain. This one is going to let me bolt here, because I think I'll be hard-pressed to find the time to cast these Lightning Bolts soon, so... depending on what my opponent does here, if they don't hit a Tron piece on turn 2, then I might not have to Field of Ruin on turn 3, but... Usually, from my experiences with Tron, they always have it. But it's nice to have this Field of Ruin here. It's what we came prepared for, really. Alright, Chromatic Star. It's not a Sylvan Scrying, that's for sure. Alright, but there's just a Tron piece. And they're not cracking it right now. So, let's just go ahead and send some bolts upstairs, because, again, we're not really going to be doing much with them otherwise. Sometimes they're useful for taking down Karns that have ticked down, but if Karn is ticking down, we're probably in a pretty poor position as it is. Let's go ahead and double bolt here, get our opponent down, get a little aggressive. So technically we could Vendilion click our opponent here. The issue is if they just have Tron. The thing with Field of Ruin is that we don't necessarily know which Tron piece to hit, and then they could still have Tron enablers. At the same time, though, I think it's gotta be Field of Ruin. It's possible our opponent just has natural Tron, which is obviously kind of scary to think about. But we could save Field of Ruin to make a more educated decision about which land to blow up. At the same time, if our opponent has multiple threats and Tron already, then yeah, I think it's just gotta be. And we want to do this on our opponent's draw step here. They already have 1 mana available. The question is, do we want to hit the mine or the power plant? I think we want to hit the power plant, but it's kind of just a shot in the dark at this point. And hopefully Click will then be able to steal some threats. Interesting that they want to crack this Chromatic Sphere right now. Or they could just float. They don't have to. But it's in the draw step, so they're not going to really... Oh, it looks like they're just choosing to... Interesting. That's very interesting sequencing, because what if they hit one of their basics with that, but... Right, this is going to empty from the pool. Ancient Stirrings, okay. Let's see what my opponent hits here. Ulamog, oh boy. If they go like Ulamog, or this, looks like they just had the Tron, yeah? Wow, and they just have Expedition Map. So this is going to be a hard game to win. This is going to be a really, really hard game to win. Jace. Yeah, this is not quite where we want Jace. In theory here, we can go ahead and draw step click my opponent. Then we attack with click, that gets my opponent down to 11. Then we go snap bolt, opponent goes to 8. Yeah, this is tough. I mean, if our opponent had redundant Tron, which is tough. Just really all the natural here. But it will take them a turn to use this Expedition Map, which is nice. And they will have access to, I guess, 5 mana this turn if they want it. Urza's Mine, Urza's Tower. Looks like we hit the right, the right Tron piece here. A lot of the things my opponent has here are just really scary. I'm not sure we can really beat an Ugin, though. At the same time, can we beat an Ulamog, though? We can't really beat an Ulamog either. Right? Because our opponent cracks here, gets Power Plant, has 5 mana this turn. Next turn they have 6, 8. Yeah, so Ulamog is just absolutely bonkers here. So let's go ahead and Snipping Tool my opponent's hand here. And then take that Ulamog. Because there's no way we can compete with an Ulamog on turn 5. So my opponent is going to go ahead and probably crack Expedition Map here. It looks like they start with Stirrings, because there's a chance they could just hit Urza's Power Play. And they just... Oh, Tron. Yeah, these are the kind of games where you just kind of want to get a little bit angry. They might just tick up here, which would be an interesting play. Yeah. go ahead and get rid of that plains. Lightning Helix. Interesting. So I think at this point there's just no chance we can really compete with a Karn. So I think we just have to go upstairs. Obviously we know our opponent has Ugin, so it would be kind of a bad idea to run out a Jace. So here we'll attack, put our opponent down to 11. We have Snap Bolt. Put our opponent down to 8. Attack with Snapcaster Mage. Put our opponent down to 6, which makes Lightning Bolt a lethal draw here. Assuming my opponent doesn't exile my red sources. Or my white sources. Or anything. It looks like Ugin's coming down here, most likely. World Breaker! Oh my god! Yeah, I don't think there's any way we're really winning at this point, but we'll play it out. Our opponent just drew pretty well. Sanctum, that is gone. Karn is gone. Yeah, reveal an Ulamog. So even like a Lightning Bolt at this point, like my opponent just, if they go after my Steam Vents here, that would be probably the correct play considering they have the World Breaker to block here. We'll play it out in case my opponent decides to misplay a little bit, but it's going to be really hard for my opponent to lose from this position. And a Walking Ballista for 1. Wow. Just wow. And yeah, it looks like they exile my Steam Vents, which makes a lot of sense, excuse me. And I think I've had enough here. Yeah, Tron is always going to be one of the trickiest matchups for Jeskai. It's just really hard to compete. So we bring in Crumble. I like Wear and Tear. Click is pretty solid, and definitely want my Negates and my Disdainful Strokes. Kyrnos is interesting, but ultimately I think he's probably not going to come in unless we have enough to take out. So, I see a lot of people sometimes cut Spell Snare in this matchup because all it really hits is Sylvan Scrying. On the play, I think that's correct. At the same time, though, like, we probably want to just cut our Helix. Well, we definitely want to cut Electrolyze now that I'm just thinking about it. We definitely want to cut Electrolyze. We don't want 2 Jaces. I think 1 Jace is just fine. And we probably want to cut Helix. Our life total is not that relevant, and we want to keep the cheaper Bolt in the deck. They definitely have World Breaker. They definitely have Ulamog. They definitely have Worm Coil. I think I'm okay cutting 1 path, I think. So we add Stroke. We add our Negates, our Click, Wear Tear, and Crumble to Dust. And I think, so in this case, I think I do want to keep the Spell Snare. It can be kind of awkward, but just the fact that it can hit my opponent's Sylvan Scryings, I think is good enough. Keranos, at the end of the day, I don't think is good enough here. I think if we want like a tap-out threat, Jace is good enough. And yeah, I think at this point we're just trying to go ahead and tempo our opponent out of the game here. We'd like to play first. Let's take a look at our opener here. This is kind of like, I mean, we have the Geist, but we have no interaction up until then. So I'm going to go ahead and mulligan a little aggressively here. We have the Crumble to Dust. We have a Geist. We have a Serum Visions. I'm going to go ahead and keep. And hopefully we hit our second land on time. If our opponent goes like Expedition Map and we hit a red source, that would be really nice. Alright, Forest. Turn 1 Forest is like exactly what we want to see, right? It means no turn 3 Tron. Let's see what my opponent finds a Chromatic Sphere. Again, that's not a Tron piece, so that's a good sign, I think. Shit, that's not good. Alright. Obviously, this is what happens when you keep a little bit of a greedy hand here. Wow, okay. We might be doing it again. Our plan here is just going to be to turn 3 Geist into hopefully turn 4 Crumble. And because we know our opponent does not have turn 3 Tron, then this could very well be a legitimate line of play here. Again, Logic Knot is usually pretty good in this matchup, but I think if we can land a crumble in this game here, we will be in a good spot. Alright, Power Plant into Sylvan Scrying would be pretty good for my opponent here. And again, this is why I like to keep in Spell Snare. My opponent just passes. No. Alright, another Ancient Stirrings. It's pretty good. That's another Tron piece. And they could play Chromatic Star here, another Ancient Stirrings, which would be kind of annoying. Oh no, they already played Expedition Map. Wow, so that's really tempting to just Wear Tear them. Wear Tear is better if we don't hit our 4th land. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do that here. Slow my opponent down a little bit. So it would be really nice to get Geist online right now, but if we can turn 4 Crumble, then we can just Geist after that. I think the game is going to be pretty locked up after that. I have to ask myself, is Wear Tear better than just like a Molten Rain from this spot? Like, I'm not sure. But then again, we wouldn't have been able to cast Molten Rain, if you think about it, so. Alright, so we really want to hope to hit... Alright, there's a Sylvan Scrying, so we really want to see a land on top of our deck here. That would make this a game, sort of. There's a Chromatic Star. We knew about that. Oh, Sphere, excuse me. Come on, land. Shoot. Alright, I guess we just play Geist. Yep. Now our opponent goes ahead and cuts us off of mana, probably with World Breaker here. We don't have a white mana anymore, so... Alright, Ancient Stirrings. That gives us a chance here. My opponent could just have Tron and a bunch of redraws. Or they just have Karn. Okay, so far we still have a turn here. Alright, yeah. I like what's happening here. Chromatic Star, another crack. And they played the tower, so we don't know about that anymore. They still have 6 mana available, actually, so they could Worm Coil us here, but they can't do anything else, really. Alright, more stars, yeah. So now they have 5 mana, they can't Worm Coil us anymore, which means... Whew! Come on. Land on top of the deck, one time. One time. Opponent's just cycling through their whole deck. Oh, Thragtusk! Alright, we can beat a Thragtusk. Not if we don't crumble. God dang it. Alright, so we could go Path plus Bolt. Put our opponent down to 19. Our opponent untaps, plays an Ulamog. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the issues with Crumble. This is definitely one of the... I think I'm just going to go ahead and pass here. I don't think... I think there's a better chance that we, like... can maybe Spell Quell or an Ancient Stirrings if our opponent doesn't have any gas here. Chromatic Star. Could be a bait. Could definitely be a bait. So they have 1, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana available. Yeah, at this point I think I'm just going to Spell Queller about anything. Deny my opponent a redraw. This could draw them into an Ugin, into a Karn, you know, so I'd rather just... and because we don't actually have a counterspell that can answer them, then I think attacking them from this angle is a little better, and hopefully we can delay the game long enough such that we can draw a land. Oblivion Stone. Ouch. Do they not have another land here? Because if they don't have another land, then Crumble might be able to get them. Right? Because they can put a Fate counter on Thragtusk here. Oh, wow, they're attacking. I guess they're attacking with Thragtusk makes sense. Considering they plan on blowing up the board with Oblivion Stone. We've been getting quite a few turns here to do what we want, which is really nice. Wow, so they don't even... That's weird. I think if I was my opponent, I would have Oh, okay. They just have another tower or power plant. Land one time. Shoot. Yeah. From this position, I think we're pretty dead. But I'm just, ooh, that's a little hasty there. Sure. It's really weird timing for my opponent. It's okay, yeah. Not sure I can complain so much about my opponent misplaying here, but if my opponent did that and I had land number 4 to crumble, like, this game would be so ours. But my hope is that maybe my opponent only has, like, very little payoff here. Like, more Thragtusks, like, please. I'd rather be able to fight Thragtusks than this, what's going on right now. To crack star, sure. I could have bolted the beast, but I kind of want my opponent to make play decisions with the least amount of information possible. I imagine my opponent's getting a Sanctum here. Whether they have a threat with it is unknown, but 5, 6, Wormcoil, 7, Worldbreaker, 8, Ugin. To make sure we're Karn. God dang. Yep. Ulamog, sure. I mean, I just feel like this game could have been a game if we hit our 4th land ever. Exile a card from our hand. We know they have Ulamog. I guess it's still a game if I hit a land, maybe. But I don't know how we're beating this Karn without, like, hitting land into Cryptic, maybe. So the question is, I guess I just bolt here. If that's our like potential line. That's a land. It's too little too late though. Do we know about anything else in my opponent's hand here? We know about Ulamog. I think I'll just go ahead and hit a tower. And I guess this land doesn't even make Cryptic a live draw, which is really rough, but Ulamog, yeah, like, just imagine if we had been able to pull that off a little earlier. Our opponent would just not have anything, really. Alright. Alright. Ghost Quarter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lands. Karn. Obviously, really all they need to win this game, essentially. But we still have a few outs here. Oh my god. They have something to play. Surgical Extraction, sure. I guess Geist is one of the few ways that I can win this game. But so they have Ulamog plus, I don't know, some forest or something like that. A land. It's a land. So now they know we have Snapcaster Mage in hand. Interesting they didn't do that first before exiling, but just to know what they want to do with Karn, maybe. Field Ruin. Yeah, too little too late here. This is really frustrating, honestly. So I think one of our only lines here is just... They could Ghost Quarter themselves here, but I think we want to, first of all, set up Cryptic Mana. Oh wait, Karn is 14, right? Oh, Karn is 14. Well, that would have been bad. That would have been very bad. So now we're forced to snap Bolt Karn. I guess Karn restarting the game isn't even that bad for us. Alright, they don't really have anything exile under him right now. But, you know, better safe than sorry here. Chromatic Sphere. Redraw. I wonder if, like, Detention Sphere is good in the sideboard. I mean, sometimes just, like, Resolve Planeswalker, especially with Jace in the format now, Detention Sphere might be not bad in the sideboard. Yeah, right now we're just at the mercy of our opponent. Yep, looks like they just choose to exile. That does give us a bit more turns, I think, right? Bolt, interesting. Do we attack? Like, if they restart the game, yeah, I think we just attack Karn. Attack Karn and then maybe Bolt Karn. So here, we know our opponent just has Ulamog in hand. We're surviving, but that's all we're doing right now. We're surviving. Our opponent is in a pretty good spot. Exile. Yeah, again, we'll just keep my opponent off of ulting for just a little bit longer here. Sure. They do have Ghost Quarter, so I can't even, like, Colonnade to pressure Karn even more. Yeah. There's a logic knot. Karn. I guess there is some world where I'm countering just about anything here, considering the fact that it's just going to get exiled from my hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana open they have, so 1, 2, 3. Crumble is pretty useless at this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. I'm just hanging on here. This is the Reed Duke method. Never concede until you're actually dead. I thought they had Ulamog in their hand. Maybe I'm wrong. Do I force them to use Ghost Quarter here? I think I do. That's one less land for them, which means World Breaker is not a draw they can... Sure. Yes. Get one of my many islands here. Let's go ahead and attack Karn. If he wants to ult Karn, he will have to do that by using all of Karn's loyalty. Okay, that's a really interesting line from my opponent. I don't think Karn had anything exiled under him. It's a pretty poor hand, though. We have Click, we have Cryptic, we have Spell Queller. It's good against not turn 3 Tron, bad against turn 3 Tron. So, mulligan. Alright, now we have counter spells. Yeah, this is definitely a keep. Logic Knot. They do play Relic of Progenitus, but I think I want to keep, like, all the counter spells. Oh, what? Oh, they targeted themselves! Oh my god. Alright. I've seen enough. I forgot. I was like, didn't they have an Ulamog in their hand? But now it all makes sense. Would I have drawn a Path to Exile? If I'd remember that, maybe I would have kept that first hand with Path to Exile, but then, like, they still have Karn. Oh, oh man, yeah. Anyways, we just got Karn ulted. Hope you guys enjoyed that match. But that's how Tron goes. I mean, I think we could have won that game too if we hit the Crumble to Dust mana, but it happens. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this first match against Mono Green Tron with Jacekai Geist. And stay tuned for the second match here in this Modern Competitive League. I will see you guys soon.